Today on Mr. Teslonian, we're going to 3D print a solar heated crock pot, or a cup warmer, or whatever you want to use it for, depending on the scale you want to build it at. What you see here are all the parts and components for a solar powered, solar heated crock pot system. Just go ahead and turn it around so you can kind of see what we've got going on here. What we've got is a main crock pot. Basically, this is the main sleeve that's going to go around whatever you're going to slide down inside of it. If we look at the top, you can see there's an opening going down inside of it, just like any crock pot shell. We have a hollow core inside of this, so the working fluid, in this case water, can flow all the way around this case, even underneath the bottom. So I'll show you that here. Let's go ahead and zoom in. We'll get a side view on that, and then we'll make that translucent so we can see inside of it. So if I back up maybe one more, you can see the input line down here at the bottom coming in right below the bottom of the inner wall of the inner part where you're actually going to set something down in the solid part of that inner wall. You can see the open clear chamber right here. I'm following it with the mouse going all the way around the crock pot area right here. So what we have in here is basically the water travels around inside of this jacket. The coldest part of that water is going to drop down this pipe, go down into the very bottom of our solar panel or solar water heater coil. And then it's going to come out of the top of that coil nice and hot, come up this pipe, and come into the other side at the top of our crock pot container, if we want to call it that. You'll also notice here in the shot that the input and the output are staggered off from each other. So the input should be pressurizing water coming around this side of the container on the inside of it, and the outputs on the opposite side. So this should give us a nice whirlpool action on the inside of that, helping spread that heat really effectively and evenly around the container. And once that heat loses a little bit of its temperature, it's going to come back out the bottom pipe down here at the bottom. Let's go ahead and back out for a moment here, and I'll give you an idea of what we've got going on right here. This is our solar panel or solar water heater coil. It's supposed to be translucent, the part we're looking at right now, but it's kind of hard to show you it when it's actually translucent. This is our top cover. We're going to make that clear so you can see what's underneath it. This will be printed out of a clear PETG. You can see we've got the solar heater coil underneath there. It's just a back and forth coil that's a full print going all the way up. That'll help heat the water. Let's go ahead and remove the lid. That'll be one separate print right there. And then you can see how simple this is. Just has holes around the outside edge so that we can screw down the lid on there once we get it on there. We've got an output at the bottom, we've got an output at the top, and that's all sitting on this two-part stand. So let's go ahead and remove the water heater coil off of the unit there, and we can see what's going on. So there you go. You can see we've got just the front piece. We've got some cutouts on there that allow us to hold the front edge of the water heater. Then we've got the back edge back here. It's a separate print. That way we could fit this all on an Ender 3. We've got a central linking bar right here. This will help maintain the same distance every time and lock the two pieces together. Underneath these orange pieces that you see here, these are actually threaded caps. So underneath there, maybe you can see this, is a threaded knob that's sticking up from the bottom crossbar right here. So there's actually a threaded bolt that comes up through a hole through our central linking rod here, and then we can twist down the knobs on those and lock that together. Very simple. So those are all individual parts. So none of this is just one part. So we'll actually be printing all of this individually. So I'll just show you here. I'll pull these all apart so you can see that. We've got 3 knobs to help hold our central linking bar, which is this piece right there, down. We've got our bottom part of our stand right there. We've got our main transfer cold water tube right here. We've got a main hot water transfer tube right there. Let's go ahead and get both of those kind of out of the way. And then we have the main lower part of our stand, which is this piece right here. And this is definitely just a simple way you could do this. You could change up the cone to whatever you want to hold your crock pot on. The cone design is easy because you don't need supports to print this and to get to a wider top than the bottom. There you go, guys. There's all the pieces separated for our 3D printed solar powered crock pot or cup heater, whatever you want to use it for. Let's go ahead and send this over to some flash drives. We'll get them over to the printers. We're working on our solar heated crock pot, cup warmer, whatever you want to call it. Right now I've got a bunch of our printers dedicated to it. The X-Max 3 is printing something else for another show. I'll show you in a little bit. But right now we have the X-Smart 3 printing at a PETG Tough. This is the actual crock pot itself. If I zoom in there, you can actually see the beginnings of the output at the bottom being printed right there. It's just starting to get into the bottom layer. Now over here on the Ender 3 S1 Pro, I have the main part of the stand, the part that actually holds up the crock pot and all that, being printed out of Creality's PLA. This is the standard white PLA. This will be strong enough for this part. It's not going to actually need to collect any solar energy, so we don't want it black. And it's also not going to be direct sunlight. This will be kind of underneath the whole thing. So PLA at first will work just fine for prototyping. Over here on the Ender 3 V3 SE, I have the solar collector itself printing out of Creality PETG. And that's the first layers being put down right now on that. See, it's printed some of the little round circles for the screw holes and all that to hold the lid down all the way through. Alright guys, so we've got 3 of our printers right now dedicated to printing parts. Once those 3 are done, I'll switch over some of the materials. I'll start printing out the transfer tubes and the cover for the main solar collector out of that clear PETG, and I'll show you what that looks like as we get it started. Alright, let's visit these prints real quick as they're going. You can see here we're starting to build some of the lines at the bottom of the heater coils there. Starting to print some of the heater coil bottom. Over here, printing in the same amount of time on the S1 Pro, we've got that much of the back part of our stand done. And over here in the GD X-Smart 3, you can see the gap between the inner and the outer wall right there. So there you go. Just about done. If I give you a shot here from the side, you can see how high that is. It says it's got 1 hour and 2 minutes left. Okay, so we've completed printing a few of the parts. We got 3 of them done right now. We've got the first crock pot ready to go. I didn't really like the amount of gap between the water jacket and the inside layer, so I've re-edited that. I'm going to send that over to the printer and reprint another one of these, where we have a very thin layer towards the inside and then that very thick layer of plastic with an insulated air gap in it on the outside. Kind of went backwards on me when I was designing it. Here we have the first part of our stand. We're going to start printing the linking rod in the front end of that on the S1 Pro. And the V3 SE has finished printing our solar water heater coil. As you can see here, I do see some artifacts. I do see some stringing. I don't like that. There may be some kind of stringing or artifacts left behind inside the coil, so I may reprint this as well and just change some of the parameters, probably lower the temperature a little bit, stuff like that, maybe slow it down a little bit. But before I reprint it, let's go ahead and test this one. I'll take it off the build plate, I'll take it out, throw some air, maybe some water through it, see if we can't clean that out and see if it works. Let's go ahead now, get this one ready to start printing the lid for this, the clear PETG lid. I'll show you that as we get going. Then we'll go over to the X-Smart 3 here and we'll print a new one of these crock pots with that design I had talked to you about, where we have the water jacket closer to the inside. That way it's easier to put that heat directly to the inside of the crock pot. So I'm printing the second rendition here of our crock pot. You can see here there's a difference where we actually have some air space between the inner and outer wall there on the outer wall, and very little space between the inner and outer wall and the inner wall. Now that I see this, I could print it with just a little bit thinner wall on the inner wall and a little thicker wall on the outer wall, and that would actually work a little better. So I've assembled all of our parts for our 3D printed solar heated crock pot. The only part that didn't turn out right was the clear cover for the solar water heater. The clear PETG I bought did not turn out clear whatsoever, so I've got another kind on the way, and that'll work for testing the project as well, since the temperatures outside right now are just not hot enough to get a good test of this. It's still only in the 40s and 50s outside. So I've got an idea real quickly on how you could use this directly. I folded this together real quick out of some aluminum foil. You can just see it's a cup. You could build these really easily just with a positive image of the inside of this. You fold them around and then they could sit inside. Now your solar crock pot is actually directly usable without any other additions to it. By the end of this, I'll have a 3D printed lid for this as well, so we'll have a little clear lid, a little clear cover for this. You'll actually be able to directly use this as a little solar powered 3D printed crock pot you could build at home and use anywhere you wanted to take it. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed. This was Mr. Teslonian.